It's the week ending Saturday, the 29th of April, and this is The Week Unwrapped. In the past 7 days, we've seen Marine Le Pen and Emmanuel Macron through to round 2 of France's presidential election, Donald Trump hailing the biggest tax breaks in American history, and a cold snap sending shivers down the British Isles. But we're here to bring you some of the stories that passed under the radar this week. Big news not making headlines right now, but with repercussions for all our lives. I'm Olly Mann. Let's unwrap the week. And with me today from the week's digital team are Anna Dubuis, Cameron Tait and Jonathan Harwood. And to start the show with her top pick of the week, it's Anna. What have you brought with you?
Well, insert name, you're going to love this story.
A road diverges in the desert. Lexus. The road you're on, John Anderton, is the one less traveled. Make sure you are
Good evening. You can move the old-fashioned John Anderton. Provides gourmet cuisine. John Anderton. You could use a Guinness right about now.
Stressed out, John Anderton.
Escape from it all, Harrison. Get away, John Anderton. Forget your troubles.
The scene from the movie Minority Report where Tom Cruise walks through the shopping precinct of the future. You may have guessed his character's name was John Anderton. And a Minority Report was set in the year 2054, but you believe the future is here now.
Apparently it is. My offering this week is that Channel 4 is introducing adverts that speak to the viewer by name. So they have asked their online subscribers to register for its All 4 web service, and their information is stored by Channel 4, and then brands can use that information to tailor their adverts and use people's names.
And before we go on to whether or not this is wise for Channel 4 and for the advertisers, can we just have a quick straw poll? Creepy, yes or no? Anna?
Creepy.
Cameron? No, not creepy. Jonathan?
Creepy.
Creepy. So 2 creepy, 1 no. So from that point of view, have they made a mistake?
To me, I don't want to have adverts speaking to me. I'm not a fan of all these personalised adverts. I mean, for advertisers, sure, it means that they can target people individually and it's great for them, but I don't need that intrusion in my life.
Cameron?
I actually quite like the idea of it. And the reason I like the idea of it is because there's nothing I hate more than an advert that does absolutely nothing for me. Let's say I'm on YouTube and then an advert for football comes on. I can't stand football. I just don't get it. Sorry, John.
But if the footballer then says, "Hey, Cam, come to this game," are you going to change your mind about football?
Yes, because I'll think, what an ingenious way of trying to attract my attention, and I'll remember it. So
The first time. But I mean, if this becomes the status quo, maybe not so much.
I guess if every YouTube video I watched and it was some footballer saying, "Cameron, want to come to this game?" No, I really don't want to do that. But hopefully the internet would be clever enough to realise that I look at different things. I don't look at football stuff. I look at cars and I look at video games and computers. So hopefully if Lewis Hamilton turned around to me and said, "Hey, Cam, check out my new Formula 1 car," I think I'd probably have a meltdown.
On the other hand, though, would you not do that if he didn't call you Cam? If he just said, "Hey, look at my new car," would you say no because you have forgotten my name?
I don't think it would change it dramatically for me, but I think it would definitely grab my attention if they said my name. And that's the whole idea of an advert, isn't it? Is to grab your attention.
We have this situation where advertising is becoming more personalised and more data is being collected online by all different companies. Where is our data actually going to? It's scary how much personal information is collected.
But it's voluntary, isn't it? Like you're giving away your name when you sign up to All 4. But for a start, you could lie about what your name is. And secondly, you could choose not to watch All 4. But
most services nowadays, you need to give a certain amount of information. And you don't know what that information is being done with. And you don't want to restrict yourself to not being able to...
But you do know that it's funded by advertising and your data is being sold to advertisers. You do know that, don't you?
It may encourage people to think twice about signing over their details if it's suddenly coming back in their face. If they're getting more evidence of actually how much information people have about you, all of a sudden is there in your face. They're talking to you by name. You think, hang on, how do they find out my name? Because I did this. Whereas previously you just sign up and don't think anything more of it.
A lot of opportunities for kids to play around with this as well and pretend to be called Mike Hunt, isn't there?
Exactly. Well, it's like Starbucks, you know, when they started writing your name on the receptacle in which you
Suddenly
receive your coffee.
a lot of people called Dick.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, and I'm not sure that has done a great deal for Starbucks and their brand, has it?
It means Starbucks images are all over the internet.
Well, yeah.
Are Channel 4 being clever, having invested in all of this personalisation software in the first place? Because one of the things that they've proudly trumpeted about All 4 was that right from the beginning they're collecting data on their viewers, which means they can serve them better, not just with ads, but actually with content as well.
Yeah, I think it's more to do with it was more to do with Channel 4 than the advertisers. They're trying to create a point of difference about their product, perhaps, and sell it to the advertisers rather than the advertisers having an opportunity to sell it better to the public. And it's got the whiff of a gimmick about it to me.
That's British advertising in a nutshell. They're really gimmicks and kind of stuff that you remember. But I way prefer this way of doing it, of something that's had some thought go into it, than just a jingle that you can't get out of your head and you think, that one advert and that really annoying jingle.
We do see evidence, though, don't we, on Facebook that people do share this stuff when it goes right. You might find it irritating when you're told about your friendversary or whatever they call it, but actually I have shared those things. 2 years ago you did this and there's a little stupid video about you and your mate and it mentions you by name. You do feel a bit spoiled and excited. They've been doing that for a while now.
I've almost stopped using Facebook for that reason.
Well, hold on. You were all you were the one who was just saying how great it was.
No, that's advertising I'm talking about. But you're talking about the friend anniversaries that come up. Yeah, but that's just people sharing useless pictures about themselves that I have no... Advertising what, themselves?
It's personalised advertising.
It is personalised advertising.
What's it advertising?
Well, it's advertising
Advertising
Facebook, isn't
Facebook.
it? I suppose, yeah.
I guess so,
Oh,
but
dear.
it's I guess it's subliminal advertising.
I mean, actually, the
isn't
thing
it?
they've been doing as well on Facebook for a while, revelation. The thing they've been doing on Facebook as well for a while is putting your friend, perhaps without their permission almost, explicit permission, of course they've given it in the terms and conditions, as an endorser of a product. So you'll be looking at a page for, say, Coca-Cola, and it will say, Dan likes this, under the advert for Coke, because Dan, your friend, once clicked like on a Coke post. Would it be extra creepy if your friend started turning up in ads for Coke, talking to you about the product? Or was that the next evolution?
I'll say. Really weird.
But that's where it could go, isn't it? Quite easily, really.
I know. My Facebook feed's constantly full of adverts for random things that tell me that, so and so likes this, and therefore here's an advert for, Austrian Tourism Board. It's like, whoa, why?
And I started by asking you, Straw Poll, whether you found it creepy or not. So now, Straw Poll, was it the right business decision by Channel 4 to do it? I mean, it's not actually their technology. This is an Israeli startup that they've bought the technology of. So if they didn't do it, someone else would. Did they make the right business decision to do this, yes or no? Anna?
Creepy.
Cameron?
Absolutely yes.
Jonathan?
Well, paradoxically, it's
it's a yes or no question. We've already had a creepy answer.
Yes, because it's good for their it's advertising for them.
Okay, so we think it's creepy, but they made the right decision. That's the internet for you. Next up, the man who we learned last week can't drive the new Tesla because he's too young. It's Cameron. What will this week be remembered for?
Well, being caught speeding is going to be a whole lot more expensive.
Hi, my name's Ben Scott. I'm a speed enforcement officer here with Leicestershire Police's Road Safety Unit. We've just taken delivery of some new hardware. It's our infrared lights. What it will help us do is to light up the roads, unlit roads especially. It transmits an infrared beam out onto the road to highlight number plates and other objects, and then our camera allows us to pick that light up. So it'll mean we can enforce in much lower lit conditions and hopefully improve safety on those roads where we haven't been able to before.
Ben Scott speaking to The Express. So, Cameron, you've brought us another car story.
I have brought you another car story, being the motoring editor.
What is it this week? I was struggling to follow that fascinating clip.
So this week is about there are some new speeding fines that have been announced. So essentially, being caught speeding now is going to be a whole lot more expensive in the name of safety.
Specifically, how much more expensive?
That entirely depends because it's a mightily complex system, and there is a breakdown at theweek.co.uk/motoring, but essentially what's going to happen now is it's broken down into 3 sections. At Band C, the most severe cases, you could be paying 175% of your weekly income.
What?
As a fine.
What? What's my weekly income got to do with the amount that I'm speeding?
Well, that's just the new penalty. So that's what they're going to be bringing in. So again, it depends on how fast you are going. But again, if you're one of the more severe offenders, you could be paying.
I've stopped listening to all the car stuff as soon as you mentioned income. I mean, that's why this story's significant, isn't it? This has been underreported, hasn't it? That we've got a policy shift here based on income, means tested, speed fines.
It's a controversial thing when it's applied to benefits, isn't it? But it seems to be uncontroversial when it's applied to penalties.
I question the actual impact that it will have of upping penalties. I mean, is it really going to stop anybody speeding by paying a little bit more.
Well, I mean, yeah, the thing is when you're driving along, I drive like an old lady, so I've never been done for speeding. I'm assuming
the speed that my grandma drives.
You don't really consider, when you're doing 35 and a 30, you don't think, oh my goodness, I better slow right down here. I don't really get above 80 on the motorway, which I guess is speeding. But, someone's doing 90, they're not going to suddenly stop doing 90 because what goes through their head is a quick mathematical equation about their salary.
Well, except unless, if they're incredibly rich, how high could it go? I mean, if they're on 300 grand a year, are they going to end up paying a sort of 50 grand fine?
I believe there is a maximum penalty of £2,500 if you're caught.
Oh, suddenly it's not that interesting, is it again? Suddenly it's a motoring story again.
But what annoys me is that that's on the motorway. So if you're caught on the motorway, you'll pay a higher fee than if you're caught on just a regular road, an A road or a B road, which I find is really odd because motorways, there are technically less deaths on motorways than you have on a back road. Yeah,
motorway speeding is safer, isn't it, than speeding on a 30 road?
Doing 75 on a country lane is more dangerous than doing 95 on a motorway, surely.
About to say, it's completely backwards. So does that mean that I'll be, while driving along the motorway, completely transfixed on my speedo instead of looking out at the cars ahead?
Anna, you've been strangely silent on all this. Are you a driver?
Well, occasionally.
An occasional driver? Are you one of those weekend drivers?
I might borrow my parents' car.
Okay. Have you ever had a speeding fine?
Yes, I have. Once upon a time, and I did the speeding course.
I've done the speeding course twice. Read into that what you will. If you're going to spend half a day at the Hatfield Ramada, do it on the Hertfordshire Speed Awareness course.
I thought you got one chance, and if you did it twice and it was no more speeding courses for you, it's Honey Jim.
I got done once in Yorkshire, once in Hertfordshire, and there was a 3-year gap between the two, so cheated the system, man.
I think anything to make the roads safer, increasing fines for speeding, is in principle only a good thing. And if the threat of paying more money doesn't make you slow down, then you've either got loads of money or very little sense. But I find that as a driver, because I don't drive that much, and if I drive out of London, I don't often know what the speed limit changes on country roads so much that it terrifies me.
Your classic speed awareness course material.
Okay.
So in other words, if you were addressing people speeding, you'd look more at the quality of signage than saying that people need to be aware of a test that perhaps they did 20, 30 years ago about what speed to drive at particular roads.
I think so. I think there needs to be a bit more awareness of
Do you think there's a lack of education is the issue, not the fine?
That's more kind of where I'm coming from on this subject, is that I find that just upping the fine isn't going to stop people, because people think, I'll just make sure I speed tactically and, avoid kind of hotspots. And if they do get caught, it's like, well, damn, I better not speed anymore. Or maybe they will do it and maybe they just won't get caught again. Fundamentally, people need to understand why speeding is bad and what will happen if you do hit somebody. At the end of the day, it's not necessarily crashing your car. It's what happens if you hit someone, what happens if someone walks out.
And what about moving forwards to the technology of the future? We've spoken quite a few times on this show about driverless cars. Surely there's a solution here that car manufacturers could just build cars that can't go over the speed limit.
Oh, I've been in one of them before. It's terrifying. It was in New Zealand, bizarrely enough.
Yeah.
And I was driving along, and it was a Japanese-made car, and every time you got up to whatever it was, 80 or 90, it started going ding, ding, ding.
That actually works quite effectively because it's such an annoying noise that you don't want to speed.
Yes, a lot of car manufacturers are introducing these limits on kind of how fast you can go in your car. But also, technology has already been improving on cars massively over the last 20 or so years of when, our current speeding system was introduced. So car brakes, for instance, are way better than what they were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So a lot of the stopping distances that are recommended by the highway code kind of don't really apply anymore. A modern car can stop in, well, on a penny, really.
Doesn't that argument work better for the motorway than for a 30-mile-an-hour road, though? Well, what they've taught me on both my speed awareness courses is that if you hit someone at 30, they're going to live, and if you hit them at 35, they might not.
Well, there's also improvements on the impact structures of a car. So if you do, unfortunately, hit somebody, on a lot of modern cars, there's actually kind of airbags on the exteriors of them to
are there?
Them. There are, yeah.
There are those
airbags on the outside of the car?
There's that car that looks like an old mobile phone, isn't it? It's some kind of thing.
Citroen Cactus.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like a Nokia 330 or something.
Sorry, are you saying the car that has airbags on the side,
yes,
to lessen the blow when someone hits it, is called a cactus?
It's called a Citroen C4 Cactus. Yes.
That makes no logical sense.
That's
the first thing when you think irony. Cactus.
So yes, there are improvements there. So yes, the technology will come in the future to prevent people from speeding, but there's also ways of getting around that at the moment. Okay,
Jonathan, finally, what story have you brought with you today?
This week, it looks like it might be game, set and match for the dinosaurs.
Well, this is difficult for Conte now, having to just sit there and wait and find out what's going to happen.
But he needs to calm down, there's no doubt about that. And Nastasi, as I say, he was in trouble anyway at the draw opening ceremony. And I think it looks like as though he's almost been sent off the court, and Niculescu is going to take his place as captain. Now, I have to say, I've never seen this happen before in Fed Cup tennis before.
The BBC's Russell Fuller there, providing commentary to a remarkable incident in the tennis world this week, or rather two incidents, one idiot at the centre of it. Jonathan, tell us what was going on in this clip first.
Well, this is Romanian tennis icon Ilie Nastase being ejected from the arena during a Fed Cup tennis match between Romania and Great Britain. He's the Fed Cup captain, despite the fact it's a women's event. And he basically lost his rag entirely during the match, started swearing at the British team, swearing at the umpires, and was kicked out of the arena.
Hence the booing.
Yep.
And he'd already had a slightly troublesome week anyway.
Yeah, he hadn't covered himself in glory before that. He kicked off the whole event by making a rather sort of unpleasant comment about Serena Williams, who's pregnant with her first child. He then managed to leer all over the British team captain and Kyovathong, and then followed it up with that little performance. So he's ended up being suspended provisionally by the International Tennis Federation. He's also been banned from Wimbledon by all accounts, and it looks as though his time as a major force in tennis could be coming to an end.
Why? Because to me it does seem like international sport is full of weird misogynistic old men. Why him? What's so problematic about him?
Well, this is the thing. I think that he does occupy a niche, but that niche is getting smaller and smaller, and there isn't any room for misogynistic old men in sport anymore. And this is why I think the reaction to his behaviour is actually quite refreshing. It's not acceptable to behave the way he does, and even though people have been doing it for years, in this day and age, it's no longer allowed.
Anna.
Yeah, I think people are completely intolerant now of anything that does strike as sexist or racist. And people,
But who are the people? The organisations might be. The fans aren't, are they? Fans quite like, don't they, someone being a bit macho and bullish?
Yeah, I think there's a definite culture in football that is problematic.
To counter that point, though, David Moyes, who's a Sunderland manager, has been charged by the FA this week. He made an off-colour remark about a female journalist a couple of weeks ago. It caused a bit of a furore then.
Let's be precise about these comments. He said that the female journalist might get a slap.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Now, again, the FA might have censored him for that. You think the fans would have had that reaction? Most football fans would probably think that was quite funny, wouldn't they?
They might do, but it's not acceptable.
And that has shifted.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the comments that Ilie Nastase made this week regarding Serena Williams, we should be specific about those as well. They were about the fact that she's going to have a mixed-race child, weren't they?
Yeah.
He said, what would it would be chocolate milk or something?
That's right. Will it be chocolate with milk? I mean,
what was he... in a press conference he said that.
He then blew off his top at the journalist who actually reported it, because he muttered it to somebody and she picked it up. It wasn't meant for public consumption,
I see, okay.
I don't think. And she published it, and he went off the deep end at her as well. He obviously knew what he said was wrong. And the idea that you can get away with that is just... It's gone. Serena Williams has slapped him down publicly, accused him of racism. I mean, if you look at what he said, on the face of it, it's not a racist comment, but it's snide, it's a remark about colour. It's not acceptable. And the reaction proves that there isn't really a place for unreconstructed old dinosaurs.
Cameron.
But I know that in something like Formula One, we had, when Bernie Ecclestone was running the sport, he would often make comments just to cause a stir. So he once said that women should be dressed in white like other domestic appliances. He knows what kind of effect that's going to have because he knew everything that was going on in the media around Formula One. But he just liked causing a stir. He was often known for just saying...
The point is, Bernie Ecclestone's not in the sport anymore.
But Jonathan, whether or not this is the end of that particular era of gentlemanly thought, these people are usually in coaching and managerial roles. So what if the habits have just been passed on to the next generation?
Yeah, there'll be a legacy from generation to generation, but the generation coming through isn't going to just behave exactly the way the generation ahead of it did. Ilie Nastase's 70. Someone who's 50 isn't going to think the same way that he does. No matter how much they liked Ilie Nastase, they didn't grow up in that era. They grew up in a different era.
I'd say, but if you look at chefs, for example, there's that whole Gordon Ramsay macho thing, isn't there, of calling everyone an idiot and chucking stuff over their head and being very bullish in the kitchen. And that macho environment is passed on from chef to chef as if that's the only way to run a kitchen, when clearly it isn't.
I don't think Monica Galetti would agree with you.
And when you really look at the top of the tree, the free world has just elected Donald Trump. Do we really think this is a niche that he's closing?
Well, let's hope so. I mean, Donald Trump might be the sort of death rattle, perhaps, of that era. We can keep our fingers crossed.
Well, that's a slogan you would never see in a presidential campaign. That is it from this edition of The Week Unwrapped. My thanks to Anna Dubuis, Cameron Tait and Jonathan Harwood. For more from The Week, why not visit theweek.co.uk, download our free iPhone app, The Weekday, or, of course, just get the magazine direct to your door. Head to theweek.co.uk/subscribe. And you can hear us every week here on The Week Unwrapped. Just hit subscribe on your podcast app of choice. I've been Olly Mann. Our music is by Tom Morby, the producer Matt Hill at Rethink Audio. Until we meet again to unwrap next week, bye-bye.